This video is basically a message to other NBA fan bases, but if you're a Blazer fan, you'll probably find it interesting as well. Welcome into Blazers Uprise. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and stop throwing Shaedon Sharpe into trades as a throw-in. We're reaching the peak of NBA trade ideas and fan bases throwing together random hypothetical deals. The reason why this time of year is the peak is because as we get closer to the draft, there are more legitimate rumors for people to base trade ideas off of, and therefore there are more legitimate ideas. But in terms of just absolutely crazy stuff, this is the time of the year for it. And this offseason is a ton of fun, but also stress for me and probably every other Blazer fan, because as a content creator, I love that the Portland Trail Blazers may be the most interesting franchise this offseason. It makes it really easy to sit down and record videos, to come up with video ideas and that sort of thing. But it's also very stressful because this is a very important offseason for the Portland Trail Blazers. They have to get this offseason right. And there's a bunch of debate as to what that would look like. There's some people that want Dame traded. There's a bunch of people that want to trade the 3rd overall pick. There's some people that want to keep Dame and use the 3rd overall pick. But the one thing it seems like this fan base is in agreement on is that Shaedon Sharpe should be on the roster next season. I've been willing to throw Shaedon Sharpe into deals for players such as Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid. Anything less than that, it hasn't made much sense. You could maybe talk me into throwing in Shaedon Sharpe into a deal instead of Anthony Simons, but in such deals, Portland's usually trading for a star, making $20 to $30 to even $40 million, and Anthony Simons' salary needs to be included in order to match. And basically it comes down to this for Portland. There's a big three in terms of trade assets. If Portland built a viable big three on the floor, then we'd be having different conversations right now. But the big three in terms of trade assets is obviously the 3rd overall pick, Anthony Simons, and Shaedon Sharpe. Their clear-cut package for other players is Anthony Simons plus that 3rd overall pick. For some targets, it's only the 3rd overall pick. For other targets, maybe it'd just be Anthony Simons. But the clear disconnect between Blazers fans and other fan bases in talking about these hypothetical trade ideas is the availability of Shaedon Sharpe. Because it seems like this organization values him extremely highly and he's just not available for anything less than a superstar at this point. And it's so hilarious to me, this time of year, to see other fan bases treat Shaedon Sharpe like he's just a throw-in. Like, well, we'd need Sharpe on top of the 3rd pick and Anthony Simons
to trade this player or trade that player.
Nets fans, for example, a lot of them think they need Shaedon Sharpe along with the 3rd pick, along with Anthony Simons in order to part ways with Mikal Bridges, which is just absolutely insane. Sometimes you'll even see future first throw it on there. I mean, it just kind of drives me crazy as somebody that likes to talk trades, likes to talk narratives, and likes to talk with fans. Of course, you guys, Blazer fans that watch this channel, but also other fan bases. And the conversation just goes completely off the rails whenever Shaedon Sharpe's name is thrown up. Portland seems to be viewing Shaedon Sharpe as the replacement for Anthony Simons, which feels a bit quick because less than a year and a half ago, Anthony Simons was viewed as the replacement for CJ McCollum, but Portland's speeding things up here with Dame being 32 years old. And here's what the thinking and the logic comes down to for the Blazers. It makes absolutely no sense to give up all 3 of their big 3 trade assets unless they know that they're contending next season. Because the 3rd pick, Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe, are the future of this Blazers franchise. And while they're willing to give up some of that future in order to try and win with Dame, giving up the entirety of it is very risky. Of course, they do it for a Giannis Antetokounmpo or Joel Embiid because that would get them to contention next season. It'd be hard to imagine having, in my opinion, 2 top 10 players in the league on this Blazers team and not contending next year. Even though there might be some growing pains and some weaknesses, some depth issues, I would just bet on being able to figure it out around Dame and another star like Embiid or Giannis. But when we're talking about Mikal Bridges or even Jaylen Brown, those guys don't do enough in themselves to get this team to contention. I think the Blazers would need good follow-up moves after that. And while it can be looked at as, oh yeah, that's why you'd keep a Shaedon Sharpe, so you could trade him for depth so that that team could contend next year, Portland still has other assets. They have the 23rd pick in this year's draft. They could potentially have all their future firsts if they flip that 23rd pick to Chicago for their 2024 first back. And even with Jeremy Grant resigning, it is possible for Portland to have a full mid-level exception this offseason, and the limit for that has gotten bumped up from around $10 million to approximately $12.2 million this offseason. Portland has the assets to build out a bench behind a Jaylen Brown or a Mikal Bridges acquisition, but in all scenarios, there's a massive hole at the starting shooting guard position if Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons get traded. Anthony Simons plus the third pick is very simple because Shaedon Sharpe slots in at that starting two-guard position. If you get a Bridges or a Brown, they become the starting small forward, Jeremy Grant comes back and is the starting power forward, and Jusuf Nurkic is the starting center. Now, we can argue as to if Portland should upgrade other starting spots, but you do have your starting lineup after that initial blockbuster trade. Then it becomes a situation where Portland tries to build a good bench, because last year the bench was extremely bad, and it held back the Blazers all season long. The Blazers starting lineup of Lillard, Simons, Hart, Grant, and Nurkic actually was not that bad. They were very competitive. It was just when those guys came out of the game, Portland had major depth issues. So that would be half the battle in any offseason where the Blazers make a big splash. If the Blazers are also having to fill a starting shooting guard position, then it almost makes it impossible to build a good bench because the Blazers just don't have enough assets in order to do so. This is also the same reason why a lot of hypothetical Jusuf Nurkic trades don't make sense to me, because Jusuf Nurkic is not the biggest problem with this team as much as other fans would like to make him out to be. The biggest problems with this team last season were perimeter defense, not being able to contain dribble penetration, and a lack of rebounding. Jusuf Nurkic is not at fault for any of those things. But if you guys really want me to argue Nurkic's case against some other starting centers in the league, then maybe that'd be a good video down the line. But back to the topic at hand, Shaedon Sharpe's not going to be thrown into trades. And it's not just going to be because he is envisioned as the starting shooting guard in any scenario where Simons gets traded. It's also because keeping Shaedon Sharpe on the roster while the Blazers trade the third overall pick plus Anthony Simons helps Portland hedge their bets a little bit. If things don't work out in the next couple of years, Portland could always hit the reset button then, trade whatever they have for whatever value they can get, and at that point, Shaedon Sharpe will only be 22 years old with a long future ahead of him, and hopefully already starting to look like a bit of a star. And then Portland's rebuild would center around putting pieces around Shaedon Sharpe, getting him another star, maybe 2, hopefully 3, and that would be the new trajectory of the Portland Trail Blazers. Without Shaedon Sharpe, in any scenario where things don't work out in terms of going for it the next couple of years, Portland is essentially screwed. And the other reason why I don't see Sharpe getting traded this offseason is I think he has much more value to the Portland Trail Blazers than he does other teams. Portland saw him excel late in the season, albeit for a tanking team, and they saw a lot of the star potential, a lot of the reasons why they drafted him. Watching Shaedon Sharpe game in, game out all season long, we were able to see the development in numerous areas of his game. If other teams weren't paying as much attention, then they're probably just valuing Sharpe based on the entire body of work from his rookie season. This is actually the same situation that seems to be playing out in Brooklyn with Mikal Bridges, who looked like a superstar for the Nets, albeit in only a 27-game sample, while other teams view him more in between what he was in Phoenix and what he was in Brooklyn. A lot of times, teams will value their players higher than the rest of the league does, and that's for various reasons. That's why you don't see every player getting traded all the time, and I truly think that the Blazers value Shaedon Sharpe more than any other team, so therefore throwing him into a trade where the other team doesn't value him as much as they should doesn't really make much sense for the Blazers to do. So anyway, let me know what you think about Shaedon Sharpe and any potential trades including him this season. I know a ton of Blazer fans are united on this, so I'd like to hear if you disagree and if you think the Blazers should try and capitalize on his value in some sort of way. And if so, what trade would you include Sharpe in? As far as this video goes, feel free to plug it on Twitter or wherever you see another fan saying to throw Shaedon Sharpe in with Anthony Simons in the third overall pick, because that's been driving me crazy lately. I kind of hate this time of year with all the random trade talk, with the trades that don't work, with the trades where the Blazers have to get fleeced, because the Blazers always have to get fleeced for some reason. It's like the Blazers always have to be negotiating with our moderator, Jackson. If you know, you know. Anyway, that's a wrap for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.